the third presentation, which will be on the alternative food. Dr. Emma Sidgwick, who is an internationalization manager of Flanders Food from Belgium, she'll talk about unlocking and scaling the protein shift, our contribution as agri-food cluster in Flanders. Please welcome Dr. Emma Sidgwick.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the warm welcome, and thank you very much also for the invitation to this online conference. It's an honor to be here. We have been participating as clusters, Flanders Food and Foodpolis, within the context of the Global Future Project, so I'm really happy to be here today. My talk focuses indeed on how, as a cluster, we can contribute to the protein shift transition. So I will focus more, not so much on end products, but rather on methodologies that we as a cluster apply to help our member companies to innovate towards the protein shift. So I hope very much that my presentation will be valuable to you. I will focus more precisely today on why and how, as a cluster organization, we drafted together with our member companies, scientists, and captains of society a protein shift roadmap. I will also detail which concrete collaborative innovation projects resulted from that roadmap. And finally, I will focus, thirdly, on how we also put effort in supporting the scaling of resulting protein shift innovations and how we try to overcome market barriers such as access to finance, barriers related to internationalization, and public acceptance. So let me start with a short introduction to Flanders Food. We are the strategic innovation platform for the agri-food industry in Flanders, Belgium, and we are recognized by the Flemish government as one of the so-called spearhead clusters, organizations that should drive innovation in certain sectors. It is our mission, indeed, to support the Flemish food industry via research and innovation in retaining and strengthening competitiveness on both the local and foreign markets. And via innovation, we also support food companies in taking on societal challenges, such as those in the domain of the protein shift. What is really important is that we are a membership-driven organization, so we work for and together with companies from the food processing industry primordially. And you see on the right side of the slide our board of directors, amongst which you see many companies featured. We also have Cargill in there. We have also companies that may not be so known to you, but Paratus, for example, is quite a big ingredient supplier for the bakery industry here in Flanders. So it's a mix of SMEs, larger corporates, and smaller companies together with universities featured in our advisory board. Just a quick note on Flanders. So Flanders is a region in Belgium, a tiny country, I have to admit, in Europe, but we are at the heart of Europe. We have a good connection to other European markets, so we're quite centrally located, and many foreign companies come to Belgium to conduct consumer tests, for example. The Flemish food industry is quite important in terms of euros revenue, euros investment, jobs, and the number of employers that we have in our region in the food industry. As a cluster organization, we can tap cluster-specific capacities and assets that we gear towards supporting the food industry in increasing and gaining competitiveness. We have among 286 member companies in our membership base. Besides that, we have universities, other types of organizations. So we actually have different actors convening in our membership. We focus very much on setting up subsidized, funded collaboration projects. And in 2023, we had 72 projects of this type running in the organization that are projects funded by the Flemish government or funded by the European Commission. We also have a nice network of pilot infrastructure, which is also accessible to foreign companies, so not only for Flemish companies. And we have 4 types of pilot infrastructure. So if any one of you would like to receive more information on that, you can also contact me, of course, after the presentation. Before I kick off with the focus on the protein shift, I have to detail a little bit how we work at Flanders Food. So how do we decide upon what we are going to focus on with our members? Everything that we do starts from 4 strategic domains. So we have 2 knowledge-driven domains, and we have 2 action-oriented business-driven domains. You see that we have a domain focusing on lead to knowledge, meaning that we try to bring state-of-the-art knowledge to the companies via events, projects, newsletters. We have a domain focusing also on strategic and fundamental research and development. And in that strategic domain, we initiate collaborative research projects with at least 3 companies. We have a domain focusing also on individual business support. So there we work with individual companies and see whether we can provide them with advice on product development, technical processes, etc. And we also guide them to our pilot infrastructure. Finally, we also focus on cross-sectoral collaborations, and there we're really going to work across sectors. So it is about forging collaboration across, for example, the food industry and the healthcare sector. So very much aligned, let's say, with what the former speaker, Matthias Kuk, came to tell during his presentation. Now, the 2 knowledge-driven domains, they focus on 4 thematic programs. We have the thematic program New and Shifting Resources. We have the program World-Class Food Production. And we have also Resilient and Sustainable Agri-Food Systems and Personalized Foods and Healthy Diets. So these are the 4 thematics that we work on within our organization. Now, in each of these thematic programs, we develop strategic roadmaps. And these roadmaps are actually strategic research agendas within a 10-year scope. So I will just show them per program. So in New and Shifting Resources, we have a roadmap focusing on protein shift. We have one on byproducts, so everything that has to do with the valorization of side streams. In Personalized Foods and Healthy Diets, we have one on nutrition, one on healthcare. And you see in World-Class Food Production, we have 4 roadmaps on food safety, food processing, food packaging of the future, and eco-production. And within Resilient and Sustainable Agri-Food Systems, the roadmaps are more value chain and product oriented. So today in my presentation, I will focus on this roadmap geared towards the protein shift. These roadmaps, as I said earlier, are really developed together with captains of industry, so with our member companies, with lead scientists and captains of society. And in these roadmaps, we set out the different concepts that we want to work on within a time horizon of 10 years. So let me go indeed into detail into the protein shift roadmap, which is for us a strategic instrument to unlock protein shift innovations together with our companies. Before we start, just a small note on how we look at the protein shift. So we distinguish indeed between making traditional animal proteins and feed production more sustainable on the one hand. And on the other hand, we also look, of course, at diversifying the protein supply. Diversification includes focusing on cellular proteins, which is really a strong focus today in Flanders, on novel animal proteins, which has lost a little bit of its focus here in Flanders and I think in Europe at large. Vegetable proteins, still very much important, and proteins derived from side streams, also a very important topic here in Flanders. This distinction has also been adopted in the Flemish protein strategy of the Flemish government. In the next slide, you see a visual representation of the protein shift roadmap. The overall objective of the roadmap is indeed to unlock and accelerate the protein shift in Flanders. There was a demand from our member companies to work on a collaborative roadmap, to sit together and decide upon what are the concepts, topics, and innovations that we have to focus on in the coming 10 years. There was also a request from the Flemish government because they also wanted to accelerate the protein shift in Flanders. So we have a mandate from the food industry and from the government to push this forward. This roadmap, as I already briefly mentioned, consists of a series of concepts that delineate the different pathways that the innovation ecosystem actors should follow to accomplish the protein shift over a time horizon of 10 years. Within every concept, we initiate projects that tackle underlying challenges and needs. So that's how we look at these protein shift roadmaps. This is a slide giving an overview on the 7 concepts within the roadmap. I will quickly walk you through them. The first concept is protein crops. It's about the identification, cultivation, and adaptation of protein-rich crops. A second concept is Novo-Pro. It's about the cultivation and processing opportunities for new protein sources. Then we have XPro, which is all about the optimization of protein extraction processes from different types of protein sources. Then I go on down, and there you see the concept Reuse It, which is about the reuse of byproducts for and from protein production. Fatty protein has everything to do with research into the functionality and key properties of protein structure. Pro formula, development and formulation of new high-quality protein-rich consumer products. And then finally, we have one on society, where we try to also work on the protein shift in a broader socio-economic context, because of course, if we do not have the mandate from the consumer to develop new products in this area, we will not grow the market, of course, for these products. I'm not going to focus on all the concepts today. I will just highlight some of the concepts in which we gain most traction, and I will list a couple of projects that we work on just by way of example. So we have many more projects, of course, per concept. Within the concept of protein crops, so we have projects such as, for example, Crop Explore. So it's often projects that we do together also with universities and research organizations. In Crop Explore, we really try to explore, as the title says, alternative plant sources for application in the food sector. We continued the project in Crop Explore for farmers, and there we mapped the potential of more than 200 arable crops within the Flemish bioeconomy. And crops that were very important in that study, in that project, were Dieder, Yacon, and hemp as demonstration cases. Other projects focus, for example, on the cultivation and processing of duckweed, on how we can make quinoa profitable and conventional crop in Flanders, or how we can have sustainable and profitable soybean cultivation in Flanders. So you see here, these type of projects are very much crop-oriented. If we look at the concept Novo-Pro, which is about finding new protein sources, there we have projects such as, for example, hydrogen to protein, where we have examined hydrogen as an energy carrier for the production of high-quality microbial proteins for application in foodstuffs. We had a project on the assessment of microbial protein sources for food and feed. We had one project also on cellular meat, focusing on a replacement for foie gras, because foie gras is still something that is a lot eaten in France, of course, but also in Belgium. And we had also several other projects that really focus on the cultivated meat domain. More in Novopol, we had some projects where we also worked on insects, but I have to say that this has now more little focus in Europe at the moment. So I think there is too much consumer resistance to have really a growth market there. We have also worked on microalgae, I think, as many clusters in Europe, so that was also one of our projects. When we look at XPro, so projects about how we can optimize extraction processes from different types of protein sources, we had a project such as, for example, FSEP, where we studied the efficient separation of macro components in biomass by combining unit operations. We also, in the TexProSoy project, did research into the impact of processing steps on the technical, functional, and nutritional properties of soy protein. We have also set up a plant protein pilot, so a separate pilot line where the entire process from protein-rich vegetable raw material to extruded product can be carried out. And then Profuno focused also on alternative protein sources for meat analogues. ProFormula, which is about the development of new high-quality protein-rich consumer products, there we also had 3 projects. And these focus always on substitution of animal by plant proteins in meat products. There is still a large market for that in Flanders and Europe, so these projects we continue to engage with them. So this is just a snapshot of the roadmap that we developed of the resulting collaborative innovation projects. And I just wanted to highlight now that in terms of technologies, there is currently really a strong focus. There was already a strong focus, but it gained more traction in the past year on biomass fermentation and again, precision fermentation. Biomass fermentation, where we indeed talk about where we are using microorganisms cultured and culture them as alternative protein source. We mostly look at bacteria, microalgae, yeast, and fungi. We also call it single cell protein. I don't know how that is in Korea, but we also use this term sometimes. And we use the whole cells most of the time. Here you get a brief insight into the substrates that we use for single cell protein production. We use high energy resources, renewable plant sources, carbon dioxide, and various side streams. So that's a bit the overview of what is at stake in Flanders at the moment. What do we think is really the benefit of this biomass fermentation? It is the high protein content, high nutritional value, rapid growth, the independence of climate seasons, which becomes very important also here in Flanders, very space efficient and less water use, and a lot of possibilities, of course, in terms of application. And at the bottom, you see a couple of companies from Flanders working on biomass fermentation. Second technology gaining importance is precision fermentation, where we indeed use program microorganisms to produce specific functional ingredients. We often use genetic engineering techniques, but very important for the European market, the modified organisms are not in the final product. So the functional ingredient is not considered a GMO. This is still important in the European market because there was a lot of consumer resistance to GMOs. At the moment, the European Commission is trying to refine its legislation. And for example, there's a new legislation on NGTs, new genomic techniques, and they will draft an alternative legislation around this. Why do we focus so much on precision fermentation? It's because of the known advantages: efficient production, animal friendly, less land use, and of course the fact that you can produce very specific functional ingredients. Below you see a couple of companies from Flanders that work with precision fermentation. Now I just wanted to highlight, I see that I have, I think, 5 minutes left, and I just wanted to quickly highlight that we also work on the scaling of the protein shift innovations. So development is one thing, but creating a market for them is something else. And in Europe, in Flanders, we have still a lot of market barriers connected to access to finance, internationalization, and public acceptance. One of the projects that I want to highlight here is the Global Future Project. We have collaborated with Foodpolis within the context of that project. What we want to do there is work on the internationalization of protein shift innovations. Why? Not only for market access, but also in view of knowledge exchange, because we still need a lot of knowledge in Europe and perhaps also vice versa. So the scope was really like, how can we work with innovation actors in a couple of target countries, exchange knowledge, and also make sure that we can match companies for further collaboration. So that was very important for us. And we very much hope that we can continue the partnerships that we established there, and that we can really work from a win-win perspective in that sense. That was the goal. We have another project which is still running, so Global Future is finished, but we try to continue it. Biotech for Food is another project. It's a project funded by the European Commission, and there we really focus on the acceleration of new promising circular agri-food value chains and sustainable bio-industrial interregional investment. And a sub-segment of this project is also focusing on protein shift innovations. What we concretely want to do is incentivize the food processing industry to look more at biotech solutions, because currently there can still be a resistance, and we want really to harness the collaboration potential between biotech companies and the food processing industry. This is a European project, so we work with different clusters and research and technology organizations. So it's different European clusters working together. We have industrial partners in the project, which are basically companies such as Avecom and Calidris Bio are two Flemish companies in the project that can offer biotech solutions. The project goals are threefold. First of all, we want to identify the barriers to implementation of biotech solutions in the food processing industry. So what are the barriers and how can we overcome them? Thirdly, we want to give support to companies to bring to the market their biotech solutions to concrete challenges of agri-food companies. And we also want to increase the capacities of less developed and transition regions in Europe. So that's very important for the European Commission, that we also take along regions that may not have been so high on the innovation score list, let's say. The final project, and then I will conclude my presentation, is the B-Trust project, which recently kicked off as well, another European project. And there we really work on public acceptance. How can we increase consumer trust in biotech innovations, in alternative protein innovations, so that they have more market potential? Again, we work with different European clusters, and we also work with two life sciences organizations from Flanders. What we want to do there is we want to work on decision making together with consumers. So consumers in Europe are often ill-informed, and we have to work on consumer transparency and information. We have to be more clear and speak in non-scientific language about the risks and benefits of biotech innovations, including alternative proteins. So what we do here is that we run a series of co-creation workshops together with consumers and other impacted actors, such as farmers, to see how they perceive the risks and benefits of biotech innovations. This is the B-Trust methodology, but I'm not going to dwell on that very much longer, because I see that my time is up. Maybe just one final slide. So in that project, we focus on 6 biotech co-creation cases that we will work on with consumers and other actors. And you see also that we have 2 cases here that are related to the alternative protein sector. So we have one case on cell factories, everything that has to do with food ingredients, additives obtained to precision fermentation. And then we have one which we call eating the cells, which is about cultivated meat. And here I conclude my presentation. I hope it was interesting to you, and I hope we can continue our collaboration in the future. Thank you very much.
Yes, so Dr. Sidgwick, thank you very much for your insightful presentation. And ladies and gentlemen, if there is any question regarding the presentation, please use the chat. And before moving on to the Q&A session, Dr. Sidgwick, because the question will be delivered in Korean, if you can find the interpretation function from Zoom and choose English, you can listen to the English translated version.
Yes, I'll put it on.
Okay, thank you. With that, why don't we ask Director Kim Jong-hoon from Intake for further question or comments? Good afternoon, Mr. Director Kim.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Yes, please proceed with the question.
Thank you, Dr. Sidgwick, for your thoughtful session. And I just wonder, I think the driving force
Sorry,
of
I don't hear you very well. Is there something with the sound? Sorry.
Okay. How can I say you some more clearly? Can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay.
now I hear you
Thank
better.
you. Thank you for your thoughtful session. And I think the driving force of the protein shifting is the climate crisis. So it just emerged in 2010, and now it just goes to the peak, and it seems a bit slowed down. And I just wonder why we are having like slow down. Even the climate crisis is even the harder than before. But I think so. I just thought of the Gartner hype cycle, like all the technique goes high and peak and just come down. And when we have to just overcome the chasm, then we can go to the further just industrial things. So I just wonder, do you think we are on the like downturn or just upturn of the just chasm? And I think we need some breakthrough for the like shifting. Everyone knows that it's important, and just climate crisis is important, but still the shifting is seems quite how can I say timid than the treatment. So what do you think? Just internal and the external factor we have to make some breakthrough of the protein shifting, because you already had 5 years of the just program, right? So
Yep. Thank you very much for that very valuable question. Well, I can only speak for Flanders and Europe. I don't have a global view on it. But if I look at Flanders, so it's in terms of market growth for the protein shift. So it's not that we really had a slowdown, but we also didn't see the expected market growth. Which is true. So it's taking longer than we expected. And I think hurdles or barriers in Flanders and perhaps in the European market at large, it's still very much the quality of the alternative products. So we are still looking for the right taste and texture. We are not there yet. If you look at the products that are in the supermarket in Belgium, in Flanders, it is not up to the level that we need to really make the protein shift work. So we really need to work on product development still. We have to work also on price setting. Because, and then I come to your other question, we still have the climate crisis and we don't see translated into consumer behavior. There is still very much an intention action gap in consumer behavior in Belgium. They are aware of the climate crisis, but it doesn't translate in consumer behavior. When they are in the shop and they buy in the store, it's still about price and what they know. But one positive point, and I think we will get there in the end in Flanders in Europe, is that we see now that it are the bigger companies that are starting to work on protein shift innovations. So while before in Flanders, Belgium and Europe, it were mostly startups, smaller SMEs, they didn't realize economies of scale. They did not always develop end products with the requested taste and texture. And I think there is now a move that really bigger companies are starting to work with what they have developed, the startups, and will continue through on it. So I think they will improve the product development now. They can also put economies of scale behind it. So maybe that is another lever for the protein shift. But it's true that it's really taking a very long time, also here in Flanders, in Belgium. But we have the bigger companies, and we have also many studies that indicate that people want to replace meat with alternative protein products. For example, there was a recent study amongst Belgian consumers, and 4 in 10 of the people eating meat, they want to eat less meat. So for me, I think it is a matter of improving the products that are on the shelves and improving the price, and maybe the bigger companies will solve that issue. So that would be my response. I hope that's sufficient.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sidgwick, for providing us various and abundant information on Belgium's food shift as agri-food cluster. Thank you very much.